Today, on Scotty and Rico Make a Podcast, and whoever are the players, they have no idea what's going on other than the fact they've created a character, and their character is going to be put in a world. They don't know where they are, what their purpose is, for the most part.
Only limited to your imagination.
And it is some creepy, dangerous monsters out there.
Okay, I tried to kick this guy, it didn't really work. Or I tried to shoot him with my crossbow, and he was able to block it.
So every time we played, I had to make cat puns the whole time we played. And if I didn't make one person's eye roll, I wasn't doing my job.
I go, hello, how are you doing this evening? And just immediately get eye rolls and chuckles. And I'm like,
yeah, this is going to be a fun game.
Yeah.
All right, here we are in podcast number 9. So thank you for joining us. Scotty and Rico Make a Podcast, but actually we have a guest today since Rico is not here. And you might remember him from another episode. Welcome, Matthew.
What up, yo?
You might remember him from episode 4 where we talked about tabletop games.
That was a fun time.
Yeah, I had a good time, and thanks for joining me again today.
Thank you for having me.
So,
it's exciting.
We are going to talk today about role-playing games.
Yeah, so role-playing games for the, what's the word I'm looking for? Uninformed would be tabletop games such as Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep, and?
Pathfinder.
That's right. Are there any others? Like it's Warhammer, right?
I don't think Warhammer is really necessarily a role-playing game. There is a lot of miniatures, but it's more like a crazy version of Risk, I think. I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, I don't know that game at all.
I've never played Warhammer. That's for nerds.
So speaking of playing, you and I just started a new game with Pathfinder. It's you, Rico, our good friend Gabe, Eric, and myself. The 5 of us are playing.
Correct. And
you are the game master.
Yes.
Which some people have heard Dungeon Master, and then I just said Game Master. So what is the difference between the two?
I think that Dungeon Master is just something that's probably copywritten for D&D, so they had to call it something different for Pathfinder. I mean, realistically, it's essentially the same exact thing. You know, you're running the game for the other players. You're putting them in these scenarios that they have to figure out.
Yeah, that's right. And so we're going to talk about what it's like. You and I both run campaigns, and we're getting that experience of what it's like to prepare for everything, read those books, know every bit of information.
Lots of reading, lots of preparation, and usually once you actually apply it to the game, it serves very little purpose since everyone kind of goes off in a totally different direction. But at least, I mean, it's all about just playing off of the people that are engaged in the game and seeing what's driving them. And usually that's enough to kind of motivate you in this different path and hopefully give you these ideas to continue on.
Yeah, so anybody out there has never played these games and you're unsure what's going on, imagine that you sit down at a table and whoever are the players, they have no idea what's going on other than the fact they've created a character and their character is going to be put in a world. They don't know where they are, what their purpose is for the most part. And then the game master or dungeon master sets the scene. They tell the story, and the player, they play their character in this created world.
Correct. I mean, there's a lot of freedom in the game, which is what I love the most about it. Just the fact that, I mean, it really is only limited to your imagination, you know, so it makes it for a totally different type of game that's a lot more engaging. That, you know, you could sit there and you could play a video game, for instance, I mean, even a fantasy-based video game, but you're not operating on the same level. You get all that dopamine going and everything when you're playing a video game that kind of just, your brain's not operating on the same level. Yeah. You know, you're kind of
You're being creative in the RPG. You have to come up with something. You're only limited to what you can come up with.
Right.
So if you're put into a situation and the DM, he asks you what do, you really have to think about it. Versus a video game, you try to figure out what did the person who wrote this game do so that I'm supposed to accomplish this mission.
Right. And I mean, even your environment that you're in, you know, it's like So say you're supposed to go to this town and you have to like meet up with this person, and then you're on this path to this town. But obviously, there's other roads and everything as you're coming across that maybe, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, your character is driven to go in a different way. And it's like, boom.
Yeah.
It changes the dynamic instantaneously, so.
When I was doing the game, I have to keep in mind that maybe the players don't want to follow the mission. Maybe they want to go off and do their own thing. Or maybe they don't want to do it in the order that I have set out for them. And a really good game master will be able to play off of that. And I'm not a good game master yet. So I just had to be like, you get the sense that maybe the game master didn't prepare for that. So you're going to go this way?
So, I mean, that's why for me, I like operating off of what's called an adventure path with Pathfinder. Just because, I mean, I love playing the game more than anything. But as far as getting to GM, it's a different level of playing the game, because you're have to be able to soak in all the information that's getting put at you differently than a player would, so there's a lot more adaptation, and I find a lot of fun in that. But what I like about the adventure paths and whatnot is it at least gives you some sort of like core to go off of to then build, and the way that they're written, especially the ones by Pathfinder, are just really, really, really well put together, beautifully written, like very descriptive. And it just gives you this foreground to,
Yeah, well, the same company who does Pathfinder is now doing Starfinder, which I'm the GM of that game, and I also a DM on Dungeons and Dragons, and I can see the difference between the two books and how they lay out the information, where, to me, it seems like the Dungeons and Dragons game, you read the book like you'd read a regular book, and you're given the information based on where you are in that book.
Right.
Versus Pathfinder, here's this whole world, even in the adventure path. I mean, if you want to know about the city, the population, I mean, they basically tell you everything except for maybe what favorite drink people like to have in that town. I mean, it's so detailed.
Right.
Where the Dungeons and Dragons, it's more vague, and the players want to know stuff. Maybe they want to go to the bar. Maybe they want to order something. And what do you have available?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just making up a crazy scenario, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, what I like most about Pathfinder is the fact that it is more the game that I loved when I started playing. Because, I mean, when I started playing, when I was, maybe 14, 15 years old, it was what Pathfinder is, essentially. It was, 2, 3, 3.5.
So there's 5 versions of Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Right, they're on 5e now, whatever that means.
Yeah, but there's you're not a fan of 5e. I happen to like it. We'll talk about that later. But so I don't know. Does it go 1, 2, 3, 3.5, or because I know there is a 3.5 version, right?
I think there's a 3 and then a 3.5, and then, I mean, Pathfinder's really like 3.75 or something like that. The rules are similar. To me, Pathfinder is broken down to make a lot more sense to play, and 5e, I think the way that it was kind of designed was to make it easier for people to come into, and it's I can respect that at a certain level, that somebody that doesn't have any kind of background in this sort of game, it makes it a little bit friendlier of an environment for them to come into. But I think at the same time, you're setting them up to kind of play the game as it wasn't intended.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So we talk about it now. I started playing on version 4, and to me, you get a character, and then with that character, you have abilities, and you roll. Like in all these games, you're going to roll to see if you can accomplish that ability. And in 4, you're given these amazing abilities, but if you fail that roll, you may not be able to use that ability again for a while. And then here comes version 5, where you have so many times you could try to use that ability. So you don't agree?
Yeah.
This is good. We're gonna get into a good debate. I like that idea. I like the idea that you're given a couple choices, and you don't have these this ability where it's like my daily or my encounter.
So think of it like this, right? Let's say you're in a fight with somebody, and you're trying to be tactical about it because you don't want to get your ass beat, and you throw a certain type of punch or you try to kick a certain way, and it doesn't work at all.
Right.
You know, you mess it up. Are you going to try that same move again?
I might. I mean, if I miss because okay, and here this goes on how good of a game master you have. The game master might say, all right, you attempted to do a kick, but he blocked it. Or maybe, if you roll so low, you just completely missed. I mean, there's a reason why it didn't work.
Yeah, I hear you and everything. It's just, I feel like it just limits you in your imagination, because of the fact that, like, you have all these attempts to do this same thing.
Yeah.
You're stuck on just this certain path rather than being like, okay, let me rethink this, how you would in real life. You're going to, like, analyze what your target is and what you're doing to accomplish a certain goal. If you try something and it doesn't work, you're going to go around and you're going to try something else, where if you have that in there, like I said, it just kind of like sets you on to like keep on doing the same thing over and over again and not use your imagination as much. And that's what the game is all about, is like really kind of embracing that portion of your brain to, like do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm not so familiar with Pathfinder.
mm-hmm.
It seems like I get those abilities like in 5e where I could mess up, I could try it again a few more times.
Such as, give me an example.
So right now I'm playing a monk.
Right.
And he has, I think it's Fist of Fury. He gets to use it so many times per day.
Mm-hmm.
So if I miss Fist of Fury, I get to try it again.
Yes, but I'm like trying to think of like the skill in my head and everything like that off.
I can imagine. Let's say that we're in a room and we're looking for an item.
Right.
And we all roll what's called a perception check. And what that is, for those who don't know, you can roll your D20, which is a die of 20 on there. And if you roll high enough, you would find that item. If you roll too low, you don't find it. But you can't keep rolling that same thing over and over. You either find it or you don't find it.
Right.
So that's what it's called a skill check.
Right.
Then I can understand it's a one-time thing. Either you did it or you didn't do it.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, though. It's like you either did it or you didn't. And with the skills and everything like that, I mean, there's opportune times to try and do it, where as far as a player that's coming into something and everything, you want to encourage them to kind of explore the playing field, like really kind of embrace the fact that, like, okay, I tried to kick this guy, it didn't really work, or I tried to shoot him with my crossbow and he was able to block it, so I want to change my position. I want to go in at a different way, I want to like maybe use deadly aim or something like that,
Sure. Yeah.
And it just, if you're going to do the same thing, like how are you going to go about it in a different way in order to make it effective, and by having that, okay, if this doesn't hit and I'm not going to be able to do it again, the next time they go to use that, maybe they're going to think a more dynamic way that kind of helps them build their character and like really kind of like just create that story better and it's more enjoyable for everyone at that point.
I like to try to think outside the box, try to come up with different ways of handling a situation. Like the game we played last time, I didn't go right up to the enemy and start punching him.
Right.
I tried to grapple him, which is what grapple is, to grab somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the textbook definition of grapple.
So I'm trying something different to accomplish the goal, which is just whatever.
Like subdue rather than just all-out murder.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm in this game. I've already talked to Matthew about my character and what I'm doing. And is this guy, he believes that all life is good.
Right.
And you don't just walk up to everything that lives, whether it might be evil or not, and just kill it. So it's an interesting, because in these games, I mean, that's what it really is about. It's about going into these dangerous places, and it is some creepy, dangerous monsters out there.
Right.
And how would you deal, like in real life? Us, I would hope that most of us are not murderers and is killing every little thing that we come across. So that's what I'm having this guy grapple with. Is just do you go up to everything, just kill it?
Right, but I mean, to like a certain level and whatnot, like at what point does your pacifism, like interfere with the value of your own life,
Yeah. I mean, if it's life or death, we'll see. This is about the development of the character.
Right.
And this is what makes the game really fun, is that you're not just playing this guy on the TV screen. It's a set script. You get to have a personality and develop what this person's like.
Right.